Hello everyone. The purpose of this video is to let everyone know that I am presently being hosted by very powerful demons that refuse to be exorcised. I have been experiencing this horrible intrusion into my life for the past 15 years, actually longer. I would say all total about 20 years, but it came on very strong about 15 years ago when they started moving my foot. They started moving my toes initially to spell a crude form of English. Initially they would tell me things like, we're here to help you. We want to, improve your life and your work and help you with your life's purpose and your mission. When I would query them, I would ask them questions. They would spell, the way they communicate is by spelling a crude form of English by moving my toes or my feet. I don't hear voices or anything, but they jerk my legs and feet around. They've implanted some sort of devices in my feet and legs that have been like placed in the arches of my feet and in my toes and my legs, my arms, my hands. They have completely taken over my body. They can see through my eyes. They can smell all five senses: sight, smell, touch, taste, hearing. I mean, everything. They jerk my legs up and down. They kick my feet, my legs out. They lie like the devil. They are the devil. I mean, this is none other than the Galactic Federation of Light, Palladians, Andromedans, Arcturians, and they are all in the service of, the satanic kings. They're the satanic princes. The satanic kings are nothing more than fallen Lyran, beings from Lyra, or seraphim, fallen seraphim, I should say, from Lyra. And they are the seraphim, the Dracos, out of Draco Orion. Reptilians. And the ones who set me up initially with this would be the Pleiadians, who are like mercenaries, who are further aided by the Elohim, Anu Elohim, which are the Anunnaki, Syrian Anunnaki. All of these beings are Nephilim, and they are force host matrixing my body against my will. I've tried everything. I've prayed, and I've prayed millions of times, and that is no understatement. I put prayers on recording, and I let it loop 24 hours a day sometimes. They will not leave. I've done everything. I've sent thousands of emails out to thousands of ministers, pastors, rabbis, imams, Buddhists, Hindus, you name it, lamas, you name it. They will not stop this horrible possession. They control my body like a puppet, jerking my legs and feet around and lying constantly. When this all first started, I had a good life. I was moving towards getting married. I had a fiance, and I've since lost my fiance. And this has been going on for a long time. I lost her about 10 years ago, and it's just been hell. It has been absolute hell. It has moved from one stage of possession to another. It started off as a kind of light possession, but then As each year passes by, it gets stronger and stronger. It's at a stage now, what the priesthood, the Catholic priesthood would call integration, where they are thoroughly integrated in my body now. And they can control my feet just like a puppet, as if your hands are inside of a puppet. And they refuse to discharge. They refuse to leave. They are harvesting energy through the arches of my feet. I can actually feel a strong surge of energy, as if they are harnessing off of my DNA. And this is what they tell me. They are doing something with some sort of harvesting of my DNA. I am Rh negative. These beings tend to vampirize. They are vampires, essentially. They are vampirizing my Rh negative blood. And they're stealing my DNA, which I believe they're using to create either for their own longevity, which they survive off of, and it gives them, just like a vampire, gives them longevity, immortality, or they're using it to create clones. They're doing something with it, and I can't ever get a straight answer out of them, because they're constantly lying. They just like the proverbial devil, lies like the devil. It is absolutely true. That is exactly what this is, the devil. And I'm warning everyone out there, stay away from channeled messages from the Galactic Federation of Light, from the Palladians, Andromedans, Arcturians. They're all satanic beings. They're all satanic princes, and they all work in the service of satanic kings out of Lyra, or satanic overlords, cybernetic, and they could care less about scriptures. I've quoted scripture. I've called on Christ. I've stated declarations and consent decrees, and I've stated the universal law of one. Nothing has worked. They refuse to stop. They refuse to leave. They've ruined my life. They can shift you in an alternate timeline, which is what they've done to me. They've shifted me in another timeline away from my real family. My real family is not even the same. They're like they are like a different version. I know, you know your family, and this is not my family. They've all been hijacked by these beings and under their spell, or being host matrix, some kind of way they are controlling them remotely. I believe they call it remote interactive teams that use some sort of fourth dimensional long-range communications devices to hijack people's consciousness, and this is what they've done with them. And just to give you an example of this, about a year ago, they arranged a fake death of my mother. I mean, this is my mother. They arranged a fake death of my mother. She literally died right under my nose, trying to save her, revive her. She had a heart attack, which they induced. She went into it took 20 minutes for the ambulance to come. And the ambulance, mind you, is right down the street. The hospital, excuse me, is right down the street. It took 20 minutes for the ambulance to come. And I can walk to the hospital in 5 minutes. But they were controlling the entire affair. Took her to the hospital. They managed to revive her. She was induced with propofol and fentanyl drugs, very powerful drugs. And she was an elder, mind you, but nonetheless, she was in a coma, a medically induced coma. And after 1 week, they were talking about taking her off of life support. And in 2 weeks, they talked my brothers and sisters into taking her off of life support. Now, no one takes their loved one off of life support after 2 weeks. I tried very hard to get them not to do so, to to try a certain alternative form of treatment that could possibly bring her out of the coma, which was high dosages of vitamin C. You can look it up. It is still in its clinical trial stages, but it's brought many people out of comas. People who've had all kinds of all kinds of reasons for going into a coma. They've come out of it, but for whatever reason they wouldn't listen. They didn't want to try it, and they talked my brothers and sisters into pulling the plug on her. No one even got my vote, my consent. No one even informed me. They just went ahead and did it. And I haven't heard from my siblings in over a year and a half since they've done this, because they are not really my siblings. I know my family, and they would never have done anything like this. This is all the devil that's controlling all of this. They got me in an alternate timeline, and they've shifted me several times over the years into these alternate timelines, where I could show you pictures of family members that look nothing like the family members that I last saw, or that I have in my photos. It's like a completely different version of them. I can't explain how all this works, but just trust me when I tell you, stay away from channeled messages. These beings could care less about Christianity, religion, Buddhism, any kind of religion, Judaism. They could care less about scriptures, consent decrees, declarations. They don't listen to any of that stuff. They have been torturing me for the last 15 years. They've actually longer than that, about 18 years, or possibly 20 years. They have embarrassed me in my neighborhood by having me screaming out and crying and keep making lots of noise, and the neighbors on both sides could hear me while they were torturing me. I could go on and on to tell you the horrible stories that these beings has brought to ruin my life and my family. Pray for me, because this is still ongoing. They're jerking my feet and legs right now, trying to get me to stop making this video. You know, I mean, I can't tell you the hell that I've been through, but I managed to pull through all of this and survive. I think a weaker person would have succumbed to this by now. Anyway, that's all I have for now, and there will be more to come. This is my first recording on this, but there's so much more that I can share with you. I just need to get my thoughts together and try and tell it in a little bit more of a chronological order, because I want to get this out so that the world will know what is going on here. This is a horrible crime, a spiritual crime, and this is a story that needs to be told. Thanks for listening.